Have you ever imagined living in a place so hot, so arid and so inhospitable that the government decided to create its own rain? Well, that's exactly what's happening in Dubai, one of the most futuristic cities on the planet, where the impossible seems to have become just another engineering project. In the middle of a desert that reaches 50 degrees Celsius, where water has always been the most precious commodity and survival an ancient art, a group of scientists, engineers and visionaries decided to defy the laws of nature. And the result? A phenomenon that is leaving the entire world divided between astonishment and admiration. Dubai has always been synonymous with ambition, a city that rose from nothing and, in just a few decades, transformed dunes into skyscrapers, the silence of the desert into financial centers, and the impossible into routine. But now, the new challenge is not to build the tallest building or the most extravagant island. It's something even more audacious. To control the sky, to make it rain where it has never rained, to shape the climate according to human needs. It sounds like science fiction, but it's pure reality. Can you imagine the power of a city that can decide when and where it will rain? What was once the privilege of the forces of nature is now the result of a technology that blends science, control, and ambition. Dubai is literally manipulating the climate. And the question many avoid asking is, to what extent is this a solution and not a dangerous interference? Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover could completely change how you see the future. While much of the world is preoccupied with dealing with the consequences of climate change, Dubai seems to have chosen a different path, creating its own climate. Instead of waiting for rain, the city decided to produce it. Instead of fearing the desert, it decided to conquer it. And this decision, which sounds like a human triumph over nature, may also hide a dark side, one that involves ecological risks, ethical dilemmas, and a silent technological race between the most powerful nations on the planet. The idea may seem simple: use airplanes to seed clouds, release electrical charges, and induce raindrops. But behind this simple technique lies a much larger game, a quest for total autonomy, a demonstration of power, and perhaps an attempt to shape one's own climate destiny. It's fascinating and frightening at the same time, because if a city can create rain, what else can it decide to control? Imagine the scene. Amidst the suffocating desert heat, the sky begins to darken, the wind shifts, and suddenly raindrops begin to fall on a city that, not long ago, seemed condemned to eternal drought. Tourists applaud, residents record videos, and social media is flooded with praise. But behind the beauty of this image lies a question few dare to ask. Is playing God with the weather truly a victory? Or just the beginning of something we can no longer control? This is the new face of Dubai, the ultimate symbol of a humanity that accepts no limits, that defies even the heavens in the name of progress. And perhaps that's why this topic evokes so much curiosity, admiration, and fear all at once. Because at its core, this story isn't just about technology, it's about the power of decision, about the human desire to dominate everything, even nature itself. Now I want to take you even deeper into this story, because what seems like a modern miracle may actually be a reflection of a much more complex truth, one that involves science, politics, ambition, and control. And when you understand what's really behind the Dubai rain, you might realize that the price of challenging the desert is much higher than it seems. But before delving deeper into this fascinating story, I want to extend a quick invitation, because the type of content you're watching here isn't just information, it's a journey of discovery. If this topic sparks something in you, if it makes you think about how far humanity is capable of going in the name of progress, leave a comment below about what has caught your attention so far. Your opinion is what transforms this space into a true meeting point for curious minds, dreamers, and people who, like you, want to understand the world beyond the surface. When you comment, like, or subscribe, you're not just supporting a video, you're helping to spread stories that the algorithm often hides. Stories that deserve to be told because they reveal how much human ambition can both build wonders and challenge the very limits of nature. It's your participation that keeps this channel growing, reaching more people who also seek to understand what lies behind the headlines, the skyscrapers, and the perfect smiles in Dubai's shop windows. So, if this topic resonates with you, if it somehow made you reflect on the price of progress or the power we have to transform reality, hit the like button, leave a comment telling us what surprised you most, and subscribe to keep following stories like this, because that's how we build a community that thinks, questions, and goes beyond the obvious. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this subject because what's happening in Dubai goes far beyond science. It's a mix of ambition, control, and futuristic vision that is changing the fate of an entire desert. And perhaps without realizing it, the future of the entire planet. For decades, the sun reigned. Supreme in the desert, relentless, constant, and non-negotiable. In the United Arab Emirates, especially in Dubai, it wasn't just a presence, it was a sentence. The extreme heat nearing 50 degrees Celsius, the dry air that seemed to steal your breath, and the almost total absence of rain transformed survival into an act of pure engineering. What seemed impossible to the rest of the world was the daily reality for a nation that dared to dream of building gardens in the middle of the sand. And, most impressively, they didn't just dream, they decided to make it real. The problem wasn't just the heat, it was the absolute scarcity of water. Every drop was a costly conquest, wrested from the sea through expensive desalination processes. Cities flourished, but under a total dependence on technology. Without it, Dubai's luxury and progress would evaporate in a matter of days. As the population grew and tourism exploded, the pressure on resources became unsustainable. It was a race against nature itself, and Dubai, as always, refused to lose. Engineers and scientists in the country began to see the sky not as a limit, but as a frontier to be controlled. And that's how one of the boldest ideas in modern history was born: making the desert rain. The proposal seemed like something out of science fiction, but for the Emirates, where skyscrapers rise from the sand and artificial islands shape the map, nothing is too absurd. What began as an isolated experiment has transformed into a state policy, with multi-million-dollar investments in technologies that defy the laws of climate. Behind this decision lay more than ambition. There was necessity. A desert that shelters millions of people and sustains global tourism cannot depend on the goodwill of the clouds. The country needed to achieve the impossible: transform dry air into rain. The project involved drones, electrical discharges, and manipulation of air particles, all calibrated to create artificial storms. The result? A breathtaking spectacle: thunder and dense clouds forming over one of the driest places on the planet. But there was something deeper to it. Rainmaking wasn't just about solving a supply problem, it was about control. About showing the world that Dubai not only dominates the market, luxury and architecture, but also nature itself. That's the essence of the Emirati mentality. Where the impossible arises, they build a solution, even if it means playing with forces that previously belonged only to God or chance. And when you think about it, you realize that this isn't just a story about science, it's about mindset, about a worldview where everything, absolutely everything, can be shaped, calculated, and monetized. Rain, which for centuries symbolized blessing and miracle, is now produced on demand, controlled by systems that obey algorithms. It's the transformation of climate into a product, and of nature into a continuous experiment. The science behind artificial rain in Dubai seems like something out of a futuristic movie, but it's real, meticulously calculated and controlled. Imagine looking at the sky and knowing that those clouds didn't appear by chance, but were manufactured by human decision. That's exactly what happens in the heart of the United Arab Emirates, where meteorology has become a matter of engineering and national strategy. The process is called cloud seeding, or cloud seeding. The idea is simple in theory, but impressive in practice. Artificially stimulating rainfall in regions where it almost never occurs. Specialized aircraft are equipped with capsules that release microscopic particles of salt or silver iodide into the air. These particles act as condensation nuclei, tiny points where water vapor molecules cling, forming droplets that grow until they become heavy enough to fall as rain. It's the kind of idea that defies the logic of the impossible and redefines the relationship between humans and the climate. But Dubai decided to go beyond conventional technology. Instead of relying solely on airplanes, local scientists developed drones capable of emitting electrical discharges directly into the clouds. These discharges cause a change in the polarity of the water droplets, causing them to coalesce more quickly and fall as rain. The result is a spectacle. In the middle of the desert, suddenly, the sky darkens, the air changes, and water begins to fall on the city that seemed incapable of producing it naturally. The phrase that echoes among the engineers and meteorologists working on the project is almost symbolic. In Dubai, weather forecasting doesn't depend on the sky, it depends on engineering. It is the transformation of nature into a system, of the unpredictable into the predictable. With each flight, with each discharge, humankind rewrites a small part of what was once uncontrollable. And for a country that built palm-shaped islands and erected the tallest building in the world, controlling the climate is just another logical step in the journey of taming the impossible. But what's most fascinating is observing the emotional contrast of this achievement. For many, seeing rain fall on the desert is almost spiritual, a scientific miracle. There are videos of residents applauding storms, of children running through wet streets as if witnessing something magical. For others, however, this manipulation of nature awakens unease. After all, to what extent can humans interfere with natural rhythms without generating consequences? Science celebrates the feat, but nature observes in silence, and the world begins to wonder if this power should really be in our hands. Behind the scenes, the operation is conducted with military precision. Satellites monitor humidity, sensors calculate cloud size, and specialists decide the exact moment to deploy drones or release aircraft. Each mission costs thousands of dollars and is planned like a surgical operation. But for Dubai, the cost is symbolic. Creating rain is not just about solving a supply problem, it's about asserting to the world that they dominate not only the desert, but destiny itself. Now I want to delve even deeper into this subject, because what seems like a demonstration of technological power may, in fact, hide a much more complex truth about the limits of nature, the environmental impact, and the price we pay for trying to control that which has always been greater than us. There is a fine line between progress and excess, and perhaps Dubai is walking precisely on it. When humankind decides to manipulate the climate, it is not only defying the laws of nature, but also questioning its own role within it. The project to make it rain in the desert is undoubtedly one of the greatest demonstrations of technological power of our time. But what begins as a triumph of science soon raises a series of questions that no one seems ready to answer. Artificial rain, for example, doesn't choose where to fall. There are reports of intense storms that caused flash floods, damaging roads and newly built urban areas. For a country that barely knew the word rain, dealing with floods has become a new challenge, ironically, one created by its own hands. Scientists around the world began to wonder, what happens when the balance of such a delicate ecosystem is altered? And what if this interference starts to change atmospheric patterns in neighboring countries? It's the kind of question that still has no answer. And perhaps never will. The ethical debate gains momentum precisely because of this. While some call the initiative modern miracle, others view it as a divine intervention. The idea of controlling the sky, something reserved for the gods for millennia, is now within reach of engineers and drones. And what was once seen as hope is beginning to sound like a warning, because, at some point, every human invention seems to carry a shadow, an invisible price that is only revealed when it's too late. The behind-the-scenes aspects of this project also reveal a contrast that goes beyond technology. There is an almost symbolic quest for power and immortality. Making it rain where it doesn't rain is more than solving a climate problem. It's reaffirming human dominion over the impossible. It's a way of saying, not even the desert is bigger than us. But nature, silent and patient, doesn't forget. It observes, adapts, and sometimes exacts its price. Environmental researchers have warned of potential long-term consequences, changes in soil quality, impact on local biodiversity, and even disturbances in atmospheric humidity that could affect entire countries. But for Dubai, risk seems to be part of the game. After all, this is a nation built on audacity, where the impossible is just the first step in a new project. Still, reflection is inevitable. Does progress justify everything? How far can we go in the name of innovation before the natural balance turns against us? This is the invisible boundary that defines the difference between genius and arrogance. And perhaps humanity's greatest test is precisely this: understanding that unlimited power is not freedom, it's an illusion. In Dubai, nothing is quite what it seems. When the city decides to make it rain, it's not just about solving a water shortage problem. It's a declaration of power, a message to the world. Each drop that falls from the sky represents the triumph of engineering over the improbable, and at the same time a reflection of a mentality that accepts no limits. For the Emirates, the impossible is just a marketing challenge, and the sky, another frontier to be conquered. This climate control project is, in fact, a reflection of the country's own identity. Everything in Dubai is a carefully constructed showcase designed to impress: the tallest skyscrapers, the artificial islands visible from space, the shopping malls that even have ski slopes in the middle of the desert. And now, even the climate is joining this list of achievements. Artificial rain becomes the new symbol of dominance, a technological spectacle that reaffirms humanity's ability to shape the environment according to its will. But there's something deeper to it, a silent message echoing behind the roar of turbines and the thunder created by science. Dubai doesn't just want to create rain, it wants to create a narrative. It wants to be remembered not as a rich city, but as a modern empire that defied nature and won. It's the same pride that built the Burj Khalifa and transformed a patch of sand into one of the most visited destinations on the planet. Only this time, the battlefield is the sky itself. This drive to dominate everything around us comes from a combination of factors: culture, ambition, and the desire to assert oneself in the face of the Western world. In a region where the desert has dictated the rules for millennia, creating a favorable climate is like writing a new chapter in human history. It's the kind of act that redefines the concept of power. Because when a government controls even the weather, it doesn't need to say it's strong, it simply shows it. Still, this relentless pursuit of control raises an inevitable question. To what extent is this evolution? And when does it become vanity? There is a difference between conquering nature and trying to replace it. In a place where everything shines, the line between conquest and arrogance becomes subtle. But perhaps it is precisely this fine line that makes Dubai so fascinating, this mixture of innovation and provocation, progress and spectacle. And what's most interesting is that this attitude isn't limited to the government. It's in the mindset of those who live there. In the young entrepreneurs who dream of creating the new impossible, in the engineers who transform ideas into concrete, and even in the artists and scientists who see the desert as a blank canvas to paint the future. The RAIN project is, therefore, more than a scientific feat. It's a manifesto, a reminder that for the United Arab Emirates, giving up is never an option. In the end, each drop that falls on the desert is a living metaphor for the mentality that built this nation. It is the pride of those who look to the horizon and say, "We created this." A pride that inspires but also frightens, because it reveals how far humanity is willing to go to prove it can dominate everything, even the sky. Behind the stunning images of rain falling on the desert lies a truth that few know, and that is almost never shown in tourism advertisements or documentaries about innovation. Creating rain is not just a scientific feat, it's a colossal investment of billions of dollars. A project that requires airplanes, scientists, radar, climate control centers, and an infrastructure worthy of science fiction. But the most intriguing thing is that, for Dubai, this cost is not seen as an expense, it's seen as a symbol, an investment in its own image, in the belief that if money can buy technology, then it can also buy the impossible. The miracle of rain is in many ways a metaphor for the mentality that built the United Arab Emirates, not accepting the limits that nature imposes. But when man decides to play God, there is always a hidden price waiting to be paid. Meteorology experts warn of the risk of altering natural precipitation patterns, creating atmospheric imbalances, and causing uncontrolled storms. And ironically, while the world discusses global warming and seeks ecological balance, Dubai continues to defy the rules of the earth, literally. This quest for absolute control reflects something even deeper, the desire for dominance, not only over the weather, but over the very narrative of power. It's the same principle that guided the construction of the Burj Khalifa and the artificial islands, a demonstration of power that goes far beyond architecture. It's as if each project is a reminder to the world that the impossible is merely a matter of will, money, and planning. But unlike a building, the atmosphere is not something that can be drawn with straight lines or supported by columns. Manipulating the sky is playing with a system that has no off switch. What few realize is that this climate engineering doesn't happen in isolation. It consumes an absurd amount of energy, technology, and resources that ironically come from a planet already suffering from overexploitation. Creating clouds requires electricity, fuel, constant maintenance, and of course, continuous funding. Each rain-inducing flight costs thousands of dollars, and even then, the result is never guaranteed. There are days when the clouds simply refuse to cooperate and the sky remains relentlessly blue. Therefore, some say that the real rain in Dubai doesn't come from the clouds, but from the banknotes falling from the government's coffers. It's the human attempt to buy time, weather, and destiny. And it's at this point that the most profound question arises. How far does this need to control everything go? When does progress cease to be an achievement and begin to become an obsession? Perhaps the answer lies precisely in the subtext of this technological spectacle, because while the whole world seeks sustainable solutions, Dubai seeks a different kind of balance, the balance between power and appearance, between technology and nature, between ambition and consequence. And at its core, there's an almost poetic irony in all of this. A country that was once just sand and sun now creates its own storms. But these storms aren't just of water. They're of purpose, pride, and contradiction. While the planet tries to relearn how to live with its limits, Dubai redraws them. And in this process, what seems like a miracle may in fact be just another sophisticated form of control. Perhaps in the end, Dubai has truly achieved what seemed impossible: to deceive the desert, to create life where before there was only silence, to transform dust into progress, and to defy the laws that nature itself has written. But while planes crisscross the sky releasing particles that cause artificial storms, a question echoes in the subtext of this spectacle of engineering and ambition. How far can humankind go without losing the essence of the balance that keeps it alive? Because progress, when not accompanied by awareness, has a cost that not all the gold in the world can pay. The story of Dubai is both inspiring and unsettling. Inspiring because it shows the power of human vision, the courage of those who refuse to accept the impossible. Unsettling because, observing what this city has become, a technological jewel nestled in the heart of the desert, we realize that every achievement comes with a shadow. While tourists film the rain falling in the middle of summer, few realize what lies behind the beauty of that scene, a system that not only manipulates the climate, but redefines the very relationship between man and planet. This ambition to control everything, from the weather to emotions, reflects a mentality that is spreading throughout the modern world. A silent belief that power and technology can replace wisdom and patience. But there is something almost symbolic in the fact that, even with all the science and money available, the rain still doesn't completely obey. Sometimes it comes with too much force, flooding the streets. Other times, it simply doesn't come. It's as if the sky itself reminds us from time to time who is really in charge. And perhaps that is the greatest lesson that Dubai, without realizing it, offers the world. No matter how much humanity tries to control the environment, the results, the cycles, there will always be something greater that escapes our reach, and perhaps that is precisely what keeps us human. The desire to conquer the impossible is what drives humanity, but it is the recognition of our limits that prevents us from losing our way. There is something profoundly symbolic in seeing the desert, the driest place on the planet, being forced to bloom. It's an image that fascinates and frightens at the same time, because the same impulse that creates the miracle can also generate ruin. Today, Dubai is seen as the laboratory of the future, the place where the impossible is routine. But deep down, this future may be showing us more about ourselves than we imagine, about what we are willing to do to prove that we can do anything. And perhaps, somewhere up there, between the clouds, laden with drones and the artificial lightning that cuts across the sky, there's a silent reminder. There are boundaries that cannot be crossed without consequences. Rain can be created, yes, but balance, that cannot be bought nor commanded. Now, I want to delve even deeper into this thought, because perhaps the real question isn't how to make it rain, but why. What is the line between creation and arrogance, between dreaming and excessive power? Perhaps Dubai has proven that it's possible to deceive the desert, but does the sky forgive those who try to play God?